Hey, my queen, I am so sorry about the anniversary trip. The budget is just too tight this year. Maybe next year, okay? You know I would take you to the moon if I could.
I believed him. I actually felt bad for asking. I was at home folding Robert's laundry when I saw the photo his sister posted 20 minutes later. The four of them, Robert, his mother Linda, his sister, and his brother, standing at the airport, luggage packed, grinning under the departures board. Tagged location, the Maldives. The Maldives. The exact place he told me we could not afford. The place I had shown him on my phone one evening with the flights pulled up and the hotel prices, and he had looked at it and said maybe next year. The budget is tight. You know I would take you to the moon if I could. The caption read, "Family time finally." Finally. Like my absence was the one thing they had been waiting for. I set Robert's shirt down on the bed. I picked up my phone. I looked at the photo again. I counted the people in it. I did not count myself because I was not in it. I was at home, folding his clothes, while he stood under a departures board heading to the place I had asked to go. Robert thought he was saving money by leaving me behind. He had no idea he was handing me the keys to a life he was no longer invited to live. Before we go any deeper, please like this video, subscribe to her drama tales, and tell us in the comments where in the world you are watching from right now. We have people joining from every corner of this earth, and we want to know where you are today. Now let us get back into the story. But before I tell you what happened next, I need to tell you what had been happening for years. Because the Maldives was not the beginning of this story. It was just the moment the story became impossible to ignore. The dinner at Robert's cousin's birthday. 2 years before the vacation. I found out from a photo. When I asked Robert about it, he said it was last minute, barely planned. He did not think I would want to come. I stood in the kitchen holding my phone looking at a photo of my husband laughing at a table I had not been invited to, and I thought, okay, not a big thing. Families have moments. I let it go. The Christmas planning the year after that. Linda called Robert every single day for 3 weeks to organize the arrangements. I was in the house for most of those calls. I could hear Robert's voice from the other room, agreeing to things, laughing at things, planning things. Nobody called me into the room. Nobody knocked on the door and said, "Maya, what do you think about this?" I found out the final Christmas plan when Robert told me what time we needed to leave on Christmas morning. 3 weeks of planning. 0 minutes of my input. The rooms that changed when I entered them. Not every time. Just enough times. Enough that I had stopped walking into Robert's family's rooms with any confidence and had started walking in carefully, reading the air first, adjusting myself before I even said hello. You know that feeling? When you walk into a space and you can feel the conversation that was happening before you arrived still sitting in the room, slightly too warm. And you know that if you had arrived 2 minutes later, you would have heard something you were not supposed to hear. And Linda's comments. Always with a smile. Always attached to something warm, so they could not be called unkind. "Oh, Maya, you would not understand. It is a family thing." Said at the table. Said to my face. While Robert looked at his food. I had asked Robert to say something. More than once. To just say something. To acknowledge in front of his family that I was there, and that I mattered, and that the comments were not acceptable. He always said I was being too sensitive. That his mother meant well. That I needed to understand how his family worked. I had been in this family for years. I had never once felt like I was in this family. And so when I saw the photo of the Maldives, I did not cry. I did not call him in a panic. I did not send the photo to Tanya with a string of capital letters. I sat with it very quietly, because I had been sitting with this for years. The vacation was just the moment I stopped pretending I was not sitting with it. I took a screenshot of the photo. The screen flashed white for a fraction of a second. I looked at it one more time. The grinning faces. The luggage. The departures board. Family time, finally. I put the phone face down on the bed. I looked at the shirt I had been folding. I picked it up. I finished folding it. I set it in the pile. Then I sat down on the edge of the bed, and I opened my banking app. I looked at the joint account. I looked at my salary going in every month. I did some calculations I had never allowed myself to do before, because doing them meant admitting I was preparing for something. I was preparing for something. I found the name of a lawyer in my contacts. Tanya had mentioned her once, in passing, the way you mention information you think someone might need one day. I had saved it without telling Tanya I was saving it. I had saved it the way you save a number you hope you never need and quietly understand you will. I did not call that night. I just made tea. I sat on the sofa. I waited for Robert to come home. Robert came home from the Maldives 3 days early. He came through the door with his suitcase and the particular energy of a man who expected the house to receive him the way it always had. Keys on the hook. Straight to the kitchen. He opened the refrigerator. He came to find me. I was at the kitchen table. 2 boxes on the floor beside my chair. One of them half full. He looked at the boxes. He looked at me. He looked at the boxes again. "What is that?" he said. "I am packing some things." "What things?" "My things." He set his suitcase down slowly. "Maya, what is going on? How was the Maldives?" I said. He sat down across from me. He had the look of a man who had been away for 3 days and was discovering that things had moved while he was gone in a direction he had not authorized. "It was fine. It was not as," he stopped. He had been about to say it was not as fun as he expected. He stopped because he understood mid-sentence what that admission meant. "Look, the budget was tight. My family thought it would be easier without you this time. You know how things get with a group." "Easier," I said. "You know what I mean." "I do know what you mean," I said. "That is exactly the problem. Do not make this into something it is not, Maya." That sentence. I had heard it so many times. Every time I tried to name what was happening. Every time I said, "This does not feel right, something is wrong here. I do not feel like I belong in your family. Do not make this into something it is not." "I called a lawyer on Thursday," I said. "Before you came home. I opened a separate bank account on Friday. I have been looking at apartments." He stared at me. "I am not making this into something it is not," I said. "I am telling you what it is. And what it is has been building for years. The Maldives was just the moment I could not keep pretending otherwise." He opened his mouth. He closed it. "The budget was tight," I said. "But there was money for your mother, your sister, your brother, and you. Just not me. You called me your queen that morning, and you were already packed." He looked at the table. "I am not angry with you, Robert," I said. And I meant it. I am done. Those are 2 different things. Within 2 weeks of me leaving, Robert's life started showing the seams. He did not know the password to the mortgage account. I had set it up and managed it for 4 years. He called the bank and spent 40 minutes on hold, and then could not answer the security questions correctly because the answers were details from my life. My mother's name. The street I grew up on. He did not know them because he had never needed to know them. I had always been the one on the call. He did not know the vet's schedule for the dog. The dog needed a booster that month. He missed it. The vet's office called and left a message that sat on the answering machine for 3 weeks. He tried to host Sunday dinner for his family the month after I left. Linda came. His sister came. The food was late. The chicken was dry. He could not find the serving dishes because I had always been the one who set the table, and the serving dishes lived in a cupboard he had never once opened in 4 years of living in that house. These were not dramatic collapses. No one event that would make a good story on its own. They were the small, structural failures of a man who had been standing on a floor someone else built and maintained, and had never once looked down to see what was holding him up. I was the floor. I had been the floor for years. And now I was gone. And he was learning, 1 missed vet appointment and 1 dry chicken at a time, what the floor had actually been doing. I moved into the flat on a Thursday. Tanya was there with her car and 2 hours and the specific energy of a friend who has come to help without making it a bigger moment than it needs to be. We made 4 trips. She did not cry. She did not make speeches. She carried boxes and said, "Where do you want this?" And that was exactly right. The flat was small. 1 bedroom. A sitting room that was also the dining room. A kitchen with a window that looked onto a small courtyard below. The walls were a neutral color that was not quite what I would have chosen. It was mine. I stood in the middle of the sitting room after Tanya left. No Linda. No Robert. No rooms that changed when I entered them. No one telling me I was making things into something they were not. Just the hum of the refrigerator from the kitchen. Someone's music from the flat above, muffled and far away. I sat down on the floor because I did not have a sofa yet. I made tea. I sat on the floor and drank it. I looked at the walls that were not quite the right color. I did not feel sad about them. I felt like I was in exactly the right place. I got up the next morning and went to work. The first year was specific in its texture. I worked my regular job and I took on freelance projects in the evenings. Not because I was desperate, because I had a number in my head and I was working toward it. I was strategic about the work I chose. I picked projects that built towards something. that added a skill or a reputation or a professional relationship that would be useful later. Every piece of work I took on had to answer one question. Does this move me closer to the number, or does it not? I did not post about any of it. I did not announce what I was building on social media. I did not update anyone outside of Tanya with my progress. I was not building for an audience. I was building for myself. And the building required quiet. It required the specific kind of focus that only becomes available when you are no longer spending your energy adjusting yourself before you enter a room. I had that focus now. I had more of it than I had ever had in my life. Tanya came on Fridays. She brought food, and we ate at the small table I had bought from a secondhand shop, and we talked about everything and nothing. She watched me carefully during those evenings. Not with worry. With the attention of someone who has seen you at your lowest and is watching the recovery with a very specific quality of care. You look better, Tanya said one Friday in the 3rd month. I feel better. Not just getting through it better. Actually better. Differently better. I thought about it. I was eating something she had made that was better than anything I had cooked in the last 3 years. I forgot what I was like before I was trying to fit into his family. I forgot what I was like when nobody was telling me I was too much or not enough, or making things into something they were not. I had been adjusting myself for so long I forgot what I looked like when I was not adjusted. Tanya put her fork down. And now I am just myself. And it turns out that is actually enough. It is more than enough, Tanya said. But yes, I bought things for myself that Robert would have called unnecessary and Linda would have called extravagant. I bought an espresso machine. A proper one. The kind that takes up counter space and makes a specific sound in the morning and produces something that is genuinely worth waking up for. Robert had always said we did not need one. That filter coffee was fine. That it was a waste of money. Every morning I made myself an espresso, and it was perfect and nobody told me it was a waste. I bought a painting. Not expensive. A landscape in warm colors that I had seen in a shop window 3 weeks after moving into the flat. I had stood on the pavement outside looking at it for a while. I went in. I looked at it up close. I thought, yes, that is exactly what I want to look at. I bought it. I carried it home on the bus. I hung it myself with a nail I borrowed from the woman in the flat next door. I stood back and looked at it. The particular satisfaction of a decision that belongs entirely to you. No negotiation. No compromise. No one in the room saying, "Are you sure?" or "That is a bit much," or "I thought we agreed on something neutral." Just yes. That one. Mine. I called Tanya. I hung the painting. The one from the shop window? Yes. Is it right? I looked at it. It is exactly right. Good, Tanya said. Now get some rest. Daniel arrived in the 18th month. Not dramatically. Through professional correspondence. We had been exchanging emails about a project for several weeks before we met in person, and by the time we sat across from each other at a coffee shop, I already knew what kind of person he was from the way he wrote. Clear. Direct. He said what he meant, and he meant what he said. He did not overcommit. When he said he would do something, he did it, and when he could not do something, he said so early enough that it did not cause a problem. I found this remarkable, not because it was unusual in principle, because it had been so absent from my life for so long that the presence of it felt like something new. We had coffee, then dinner. Then we found ourselves on a phone call on a Wednesday evening that lasted an hour and covered so many things so easily that neither of us could remember afterward exactly what we had talked about. I told him about Robert 2 months in. Not the full history. The shape of it. The marriage. The exclusions. The rooms that changed. The laundry and the photo and the departures board. Sitting on the floor of an empty flat drinking tea with walls that were not quite the right color. He listened. All of it. Without interrupting. Without the particular expression some people get when they are waiting for you to finish so they can offer their interpretation. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. "How did you know when it was time to leave?" he said. I had been knowing for a long time. The vacation was just the moment I stopped pretending I did not know. He nodded slowly. And now, I looked at the room. My flat. The painting. The furniture I had chosen. The kitchen where the espresso machine lived on the counter like it had always been there. Now I am here, I said. And here is very good. He looked at me steadily. Yes, he said. It is. He did not try to tell me what I had survived. He did not hand my version of my own story back to me with his additions. He just sat in my flat and drank his coffee and let me be exactly as I was. That was enough. More than enough. The calls started coming in the second year. Not immediately. Not all at once. The way these things work is that people do not reach out when you leave. They reach out when your leaving starts to look like it was the right decision. When the life you are building starts to become visible in the way that lives become visible when they are genuinely going well. And my life was genuinely going well. The freelance work had become something consistent and purposeful. The carefulness of the first year had compounded. I was not wealthy. I was stable. Stable in a way I had not been during the marriage, because during the marriage the stability had been a shared thing between two people, and one of those people had not been paying attention to it. I moved to a better flat in the 14th month. More space. A real kitchen. A bedroom that felt like a bedroom, and not just a place where a bed happened to be. And then I bought the house. 7 months later. 3 bedrooms. A garden at the back that I planned myself. A kitchen where everything worked because I maintained it. A sitting room where the painting hung on the wall, and the espresso machine was visible through the doorway, and every single thing in every single room was there because I had chosen it. I had a number in my head for 2 years. The number arrived. I used it. And that was when the calls started. Tanya called first with the information. Linda has been asking about you, Tanya said. She was matter-of-fact about it the way she was matter-of-fact about everything. Through someone who told someone who mentioned it to me. She apparently said she always considered you part of the family. I was at my desk. I moved the phone to my other ear. Okay. She also said family is family. At the end of the day. I was quiet for a moment. I know, Tanya said. I know. What do you want me to do with that information? Nothing, Tanya said. I just wanted you to know it was coming directly. It came directly. Linda called on a Thursday evening. I saw the name and picked up. Maya. It has been so long. I have been thinking about you. I heard things are going really well. That is so wonderful. We always knew you had it in you. We always knew you had it in you. The woman who had looked at me at the dinner table and said, "Oh, Maya, you would not understand. It is a family thing." I am well. Thank you for calling. I thought we could have lunch sometime. Catch up. I have missed you, Maya. Family is family at the end of the day. I sat in my chair. I looked at the painting on the wall. The warm colors of it. The landscape. The thing I had chosen alone and carried home on a bus and hung with a nail I borrowed from my neighbor. I am quite busy at the moment, I said. But I appreciate the call. I ended it. I did not feel angry. I felt clear. The particular clarity of a woman who has heard a specific kind of noise before and knows exactly what frequency it is operating on. They did not miss me. They missed my usefulness. The invisible competence that had been running in the background of Robert's life and their lives, and they had taken from without acknowledging for years. When it left, they felt its absence. When my life started looking better than the story they had been telling about me, they remembered that family is family. I put the phone down. I went to the kitchen. I made dinner. Robert called the following week. I have been doing a lot of thinking, he said. His voice had a quality I recognized. The voice of a man preparing to say something significant that he has been rehearsing. Okay, I said. I made mistakes. Real ones. I think I knew it at the time, and I was not honest with myself about it. What made you think about this now? A pause. I heard you are doing really well. I set the mug I was holding on the counter. Yes. I miss what we had. What we had was me managing the shape of his entire life, while his family treated me as a recurring inconvenience, and he looked at his food. Robert, I am glad you have been thinking. I genuinely am. But I have built this life, and I am at peace in it. I do not think there is a conversation left that would add to that. You are not angry, he said. No, I am really not. A pause. That is somehow worse, he said quietly. Take care of yourself, Robert. I ended the call. I stood in the kitchen for a moment. Then I finished the washing up. The sister's message came 2 weeks later. Long. Several paragraphs. It started with how much she had always liked me and how she hoped there were no hard feelings and how these things were always complicated and nobody was really at fault when families went through transitions. It ended with a request. A professional contact. Someone I knew through work. Someone the sister needed for a business opportunity she was trying to develop. What the sister did not know, what none of them had ever known, was that I was the reason that contact existed at all. That relationship had been built over 3 years. 3 years of lunches that I arranged, follow-up emails that I sent, professional events that I attended and introduced people at, and followed through on afterward. The sister had met this contact once, at a dinner I organized, and had no idea that without me the introduction would never have happened. She thought it was just someone the family knew. She did not know that every professional relationship in Robert's wider circle that had any real value had been built by me quietly and without credit. I read the message twice. I thought about the sister in the airport photo. Grinning. Luggage at her feet. Family time, finally. I replied the next morning. Short. Polite. I am not in a position to help with this right now. I wish you well. I put the phone down. I went to work. The party was a mutual friend's birthday. Someone both Robert and I knew who had stayed friendly with both of us afterward in the careful way that people do when they do not want to choose sides. I did not organize my life around the possibility of running into Robert. I went to the things I wanted to go to. Daniel came with me. We arrived at 7. The room was warm and full. Good music. People I had not seen in a while and was genuinely glad to see. I moved through the room easily. I talked to people. I laughed at things. I was present in a way I had not been at social gatherings during the marriage because during the marriage I had always been slightly managing myself. Slightly aware of the territory around me. Reading the air before I entered the room. I was not reading anything tonight. I was just there. I had been there about 40 minutes when I saw Robert near the kitchen doorway. He saw me at the same moment. He looked different. Not worse exactly. More ordinary. The particular ordinariness of a person once you have stopped seeing them through the lens of a shared life. Linda was beside him. I had not expected Linda. Linda saw me a second after Robert did. Something moved across Linda's face. A recalibration. I recognized it because I had seen it before on other faces in other rooms. It was the look of someone updating a picture they have been carrying that no longer matches what is in front of them. I looked well. I knew I looked well. I was not performing it. It was simply true. Daniel was beside me. He turned at that moment and touched my arm and said something that made me laugh. Genuinely laugh. The way you laugh when something is actually funny and you are not monitoring yourself. Linda looked at Daniel. She looked at my earrings. She looked at me the way you look at something you chose to let go of and have now discovered you cannot get back. I turned back to my conversation. Robert found me near the drinks table later in the evening. I saw him coming. I did not move toward him or away from him. I just stood where I was. Maya, he said. You look well. Thank you. So do you. He glanced at Daniel across the room, in easy conversation with the host. That is Daniel? Yes. He seems like a good man. He is. He looked at his drink. I heard you bought a place. Yes. And the business is going well. Yes. He was quiet. I did not fill the silence. I had learned a long time ago that I was not responsible for filling silences that other people created. I think about the vacation sometimes, he said. I think I should have said something different that morning. What would you have said? He thought about it. Genuinely thought about it. Something true, he said. That would have been a start. I am sorry, Maya. I know it does not do anything now. It does not, I said. But I believe you mean it. He looked at me for a long moment. You are really okay. I am really okay. How, he said. And the word was not a challenge. It was genuine. The question of a man who cannot quite understand how someone he underestimated has arrived at a place he cannot reach. I looked at the room. At the life I had carried here with me. I built something, I said. I had the space to build it because you gave me back my time. I did not build it to prove anything to you. I built it because I finally had the space to prove something to myself. And it turns out I was capable of quite a lot when nobody was telling me otherwise. He looked at me. He nodded once. He went back to where he had come from. Linda approached 20 minutes before I left. She came with the particular warm smile. The one that had been there at every dinner table. The one attached to every comment that was not quite a compliment and not quite a criticism, but landed somewhere in the space between the two. Maya, it is so good to see you. You look wonderful. Truly wonderful. Hello, Linda. I was just saying to Robert. Linda. Tanya was there. She had appeared beside me the way she always appeared when she sensed I might need someone in my corner. Not in front of me. Beside me. The specific positioning of a friend who understands the difference between shielding someone and standing with them. Linda looked at Tanya. Oh, Tanya. Hello. Hello, Tanya said pleasantly. I just want to say one thing quickly, and then we can all enjoy the rest of the evening. Linda's smile stayed on her face. You excluded Maya from a family vacation and told Robert she was being dramatic when she left, Tanya said. No heat. No volume. Just the calm, precise delivery of someone stating a sequence of facts in the order they occurred. Then you called her when her life started looking better than yours. That is not how family works, Linda. Linda's smile did not disappear. It shifted. The smile of someone who has been expecting a conversation and is now having it and is recalculating how to manage it. I was not, she began. I know you were not, Tanya said pleasantly. That is exactly what I am saying. She turned to me. Ready to go? I looked at Linda. Not with triumph. Not with coldness. With the settled, even gaze of a woman who does not owe anyone in this conversation a single thing. It was good to see you, Linda, I said. Take care of yourself. I went to find Daniel. Daniel had the coats. He had collected both of them from wherever coats go at parties, and he was waiting near the door with the patience that does not look like waiting. The patience of a man who is exactly where he intends to be. Ready, I said. We said our goodbyes. We stepped outside. The night air was cool after the warmth of the flat. Robert, Daniel said as we walked to the car. Yes. How was that? I thought about it. Fine. It was genuinely fine. And Linda? Tanya handled Linda. What did she say? I repeated it. The two sentences. The calm, precise sequence of facts. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then, good for Tanya. Yes, I said. Good for Tanya. The house was quiet when we got home. My house. The one the number in my head had built over 2 years of specific, strategic, quiet work. 3 bedrooms. A garden I had planted myself in the spring. A kitchen where the espresso machine sat on the counter and the tap worked, and the cupboards held exactly what I needed in exactly the places I had chosen to put them. I stood in the sitting room. The painting on the wall. The one from the shop window. The warm landscape I had carried home on a bus and hung with a borrowed nail. It looked exactly right. It had always looked exactly right. I picked up my phone and opened my gallery. I scrolled back. 2 years and 4 months of my life moving in reverse through the screen. I kept scrolling until the photos became a different color, a different light, a different version of where I had been. I found it. The screenshot. The 4 of them at the airport. Luggage. The departures board. The grinning faces. Tagged location, the Maldives. Family time, finally. I looked at it. I thought about the Tuesday evening when I took it. The bedroom. Robert's shirt folded on the bed. The white flash of the screenshot. The face I had seen in the dark window above the kitchen sink when I went to make tea. I thought about the floor of the first flat and the tea and the neutral walls that were not quite right and how I had not felt sad about them. About the number in my head and the lawyer's number saved in my contacts and the separate bank account opened on a Friday. About Tanya's car and 4 trips and food on Friday evenings and the painting and the espresso machine, and every morning I had woken up in a space that was entirely, uncomplicatedly mine. Memories of Daniel in the doorway with the coats. The patience of a man who is exactly where he intends to be. I looked at the screenshot one more time, then deleted it. I did not need a reminder of the moment I chose myself. I knew who I was now. I did not need a photo of a departures board in the Maldives to tell me. I had a house. I had a garden. I had a painting on the wall and an espresso machine on the counter and a man in the kitchen making tea. I put the phone in my pocket. Daniel came in with 2 mugs. He put one on the small table beside my chair. He sat on the sofa with his. He looked at the painting for a moment the way he sometimes did, quietly, like he was checking it was still the right thing. All right, he said. All right, I said. We sat in the quiet of my house. Outside the city was moving through its ordinary Saturday night. None of it had anything to do with Robert or the vacation or Linda's warm smile or the sister's long message asking for a contact she did not know she had no right to ask for. It had everything to do with this. This room. This chair. This man with his mug on the sofa. This life I had built from 1 screenshot and 1 save number and 1 Friday bank account and 2 years of very specific, very quiet, very deliberate work. They excluded me from 1 vacation. I excluded them from my entire future. Not as revenge. Not as a plan. As a consequence. The natural, structural consequence of a woman who finally had room to understand what she was capable of and used every inch of that room. I drank my tea. It was exactly the right temperature. I sat in my chair in my house, and I did not think about the airport photo because the airport photo was gone. I thought about how quiet my life was. How entirely, completely, peacefully mine. I had been the floor they stood on without knowing it. Now I was the house. The lesson of this story does not live in the vacation. It never did. The vacation was just the moment the truth became too clear to manage. The moment I looked at a photo of my husband's family at an airport heading to the place I had asked to go and understood, with absolute clarity, that I had been managing a truth for years that was finally done being managed. I was in the family on paper. I was never in the family in reality. And there is a particular exhaustion that comes from occupying a space where you are technically present but functionally invisible, where your effort is taken and your opinion is never sought, and the rooms adjust when you enter them, and you keep being told that you are making things into something they are not. Robert told everyone I left over a vacation. Nobody asked what happened before the vacation. Nobody asked about the dinners I found out from photos. The Christmas I was not consulted on. The rooms that changed. Nobody asked how many small exclusions accumulate into a decision that looks sudden from the outside, but is the last step of a very long walk. I did not correct the story. I built something so solid that the story became irrelevant. They did not miss me. They missed my usefulness. The invisible daily competence that had been running in the background of Robert's life, and they had benefited from without ever acknowledging. The mortgage password, the vet schedule, the professional relationships, the Sunday dinners that ran smoothly, the floor. When it was gone, they felt its absence. When my life started looking better than the story they had been telling, they suddenly remembered that family is family. I did not go back. Not because I was bitter. Because I was done. He called me his queen on the morning he left for the Maldives without me. 2 years later, I was living in a house I bought with money I earned in the space his absence gave me, and I was drinking tea at the right temperature in a chair I chose myself, and the people who once told me I did not understand, because it was a family thing, were calling me to ask for lunch and professional contacts and a way back in. I was not his queen. I was never his queen. I was my own, and everything I had built proved it. But now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been made to feel like an outsider in a place you were supposed to belong? Have you ever been excluded from something and only realized afterward that the exclusion was actually the space you needed? Or have you ever had someone underestimate you so completely that when you built your life without them, they did not even recognize what they were looking at? Tell us your story in the comments below. We read every single one in this community, and your experience matters here. If this story moved something in you today, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear that being left out is not always a loss. Sometimes it is the exact space you needed to build something entirely your own. And if you have not subscribed to her drama tales yet, do it now. We tell the stories that remind you who you are. We will see you in the next drama.